Well, good evening. President William Ruto has gotten another setback as a judge has extended the freeze on the Finance Act 2023. We have a lot about that. Plus, tonight, after dismissing the government's application to lift the freeze on the Finance Act, the High Court has granted an extension on the orders that prevent Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u from implementing it.
I make the following orders. The applications dated 30th of June 2023 and 1st of July 2023 are hereby dismissed. The application dated 29th of June 2023 is hereby allowed.
Azimio leader Raila Odinga urges Kenyans to show their overwhelming support by participating in the coalition's signature collection drive.
Tumesema Wakenya wana sababu. Pili, Wakenya wana nia. Tatu, Wakenya wana uwezo ya kuleta mabadiliko.
Tonight on our special feature, surrogacy remains a stigmatized matter in the country, lacking proper regulation even as it is generally accepted as a viable fertility treatment.
For me, once I carry the kid, by the time I'm giving birth, then the parents are supposed to name the kid, because we had agreed that right from the beginning, I'm not supposed to get attachment to that kid.
We speak to those who consider it as an alternative way of siring kids. Well, it is 9 p.m. East African time. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of News Tonight. My name is Eric Munene. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Catherine Simaloi. The Finance Act 2023 remains suspended and the case will go to full trial. This is after High Court Judge Lady Justice Mugure Thande extended the conservatory orders pending hearing of the case. The judge also forwarded the petition to Chief Justice Martha Koome to constitute a bench that will hear and determine the case. We begin tonight from the courts.
Another week running, Kenyans waited with bated breath for directions from the corridors of justice.
Academic exercise.
Last week, High Court Judge Lady Justice Mugure Thande extended conservatory orders barring implementation of the Finance Act 2023-2024 until today. Come afternoon, Lady Justice Mugure appeared again virtually to issue further directions. For starters, the judge noted that the petitioners have established a prima facie case, meaning the petitioners raise issues that must await full hearing.
Additionally, the lifting of conservatory orders will militate against the public interest as there is a real risk of the public being subjected to an unconstitutional law should the petition succeed. Further, the prejudice that will be suffered by the petitioners and the public by being subjected to a law that may ultimately be determined to be unconstitutional far outweighs the prejudice to be suffered by the respondents if the petition were to fail. Indeed, a determination in favor of the petitioners will be of no use to the petitioners and the public if in the meantime they are subjected to the impugned act. I am therefore satisfied that notwithstanding the presumption of constitutionality of legislation, there is merit in granting conservatory orders in respect of the Finance Act under challenge.
In her landmark ruling, Lady Justice Mugure Thande extended the conservatory orders until the case is heard and determined. Other orders issued by the judge are:
I find that it has not been demonstrated to my satisfaction grounds to warrant the setting aside of the orders of 30th of June 2023. I make the following orders. The applications dated 30th of June 2023 and 1st of July 2023 are hereby dismissed. The application dated 29th of June 2023 is hereby allowed. Pursuant to Article 165(4), this matter is certified as raising a substantial question of law, and the file is hereby transmitted to the Honorable the Chief Justice for assignment of a bench of not less than 3 judges to hear and determine the petition. No order as to costs.
The Attorney General, in his preliminary submissions, argued that the petitioners have put the country in a constitutional crisis arising from the suspension of the Finance Act.
The application dated 29th of June 2023 was for conservatory orders, and that application has been granted.
Okay, thank you.
All eyes will now be on the Chief Justice to constitute a bench to hear the case and determine it, owing to the fact that we are already in a new financial year.
On Monday, Azimio leader Raila Odinga did things in an unusual manner in which took many by surprise, where he opted to ditch his fuel-guzzling fleet of vehicles and took public means transport to the Nairobi Central Business District from his home in Karen. The former premier spent the better part of the day interacting with Kenyans in the streets, urging them to turn up for the anti-Kenya Kwanza protest slated for Wednesday. Moige William followed Odinga's busy day at the CBD and filed the following report.
In an e-way to Kenyans, Azimio leader Raila Odinga's day started with a walk to catch a public service vehicle from Karen. His destination, the Nairobi Central Business District. Odinga, in what took many by surprise, first engaged Kenyans, bought a newspaper, and then boarded a matatu, commonly referred to many Kenyans as a manyanga, that ferried Odinga. This time, away from the usual fleet of classy, flashy guzzlers or security detail clearing traffic for his convoy, the former premier was seen interacting with a number of city residents. On arrival at the CBD, he went to a shoe shiner who polished his shoes. Later, he walked and crossed from Tom Mboya Street, where he first paid his respect by saluting the statue of Tom Mboya and later the statue of Dedan Kimathi. The ODM leader then popped into a restaurant in Nairobi for breakfast before addressing a crowd which was already swelling. Unlike the chaotic scenes on Friday where police and protesters engaged in a fierce exchange, police officers kept off Odinga's procession and neither interrupted it, even as it momentarily brought the city under the sun to a standstill.
Leo tuliamua kuhisi vile wananchi wa kawaida wanahisi kila siku.
Odinga, while addressing the crowd, thanked his supporters on their conduct during the Sabasaba rally, reiterating that the protests were not to cause violence but to outline their grievances to President William Ruto over the high cost of living.
Tumesema sisi si majambazi. Sisi vilevile si watu ambao wanataka ugomvi kwa sababu ya ugomvi. Tunafanya kila kitu, tunafanya na sababu. Tumesema Wakenya wana sababu. Pili, Wakenya wana nia. Tatu, Wakenya wana uwezo ya kuleta mabadiliko kali ya maisha yao.
The Azimio leader, who was accompanied by other top officials in the opposition coalition, maintained that Wednesday's planned protest will take place amidst calls to call off the demos. Moige William, TV 47, Nairobi.
Well, thank you for that, Moige William. Now, Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki has warned the Azimio party led by Raila Odinga on their upcoming protests against the Kenya Kwanza government. Speaking today in Meru County during the opening event of the official opening of Igoji Sub-County headquarters, Kindiki said the government will put the safety of the country and its people first next Wednesday, when the opposition hosts yet another protest against the government. Kindiki has said that the government will not allow the opposition to hold unlawful demonstrations that seek to not only disrupt public peace but also the normal running activities of the country.
Kulikuwa na watu wa siasa wamefanya kile waliita maandamano. Tumepoteza watu 6 ambao wameuawa katika sehemu nyingi katika Kenya eti walikuwa wakiandamana. Tuko na maofisa wa polisi pia ambao waliumizwa na mawe na vifaa butu ambao walipigwa nao na wananchi ambao walikuwa wanasema wanaandamana. Katiba inasema wale watu ambao wanaenda kufanya mambo yao wasibebe silaha, wasiumize watu, wasivuruge amani ya taifa. Na nimeona imekuwa mtindo kila wakati kukiwa na maandamano, tunapoteza maisha ya Wakenya. Saa ingine tunaumiza polisi, wengine wamekufa katika ile maandamano ya Februari, tulipoteza afisa wetu wa polisi. Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie hatutakubali tena katika mchanga wa Kenya maandamano ya kuvuruga watu, kuua watu na kuharibu biashara za watu. We will not allow. We will not allow. because hii nchi sio yenu peke yao, ni ya kila mtu. Hata wale hawako kwa maandamano ni nchi yao. Hata wewe ni nchi yenu. Kwani hii nchi ni yako peke yako? So, those extreme ideas that when you disagree on a political issue, you cause mayhem, you hurt people, you close businesses, you close public highways, you uproot, facilities. That culture must stop. And we are going to deal with you very firmly, decisively, and with finality.
Moving on, President William Ruto now says Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces must also agree to establish a humanitarian zone as war in the country intensifies. Speaking in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he chaired his first Intergovernmental Authority on Development meeting on Sudan peace process, the head of state noted that the move will stop the loss of lives, ease access to public services, and facilitate a settlement of the conflict. Mike Kagongo reports.
As the conflict in Sudan escalates, the parties involved in the Sudan conflicts have been called upon to announce an immediate and absolute halt to hostilities.
A short health break.
President William Ruto has emphasized that both the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces must also consent to creation of a designated humanitarian zone.
Our meeting must address this unfolding situation. Critical is the need for an immediate assessment of the security and humanitarian situation with a view to ensuring that action is taken to protect the civilian population.
As the warring in Sudan intensifies, parties to the Sudan conflict have been asked to declare an unconditional ceasefire. This is despite the warring Sudan rejection and appointment of Kenyan President William Ruto as the head of a quartet to facilitate peace under the regional bloc.
Despite several initiatives to silence the guns, including the Jeddah rounds, for which we as a region thank the United States of America and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the conflict, however, continues unabated.
And call upon those in conflict to open a direct channel of communication under the patronage of the peace process quartet formed during the IGAD Assembly of Heads of State and Government.
Abdel Fattah Abdul-Rahman, the leader of the military regime, alleged that Nairobi had provided support to the Rapid Support Forces, led by Mohamed Hamdan Daglo Hemedti, who was previously his deputy but is now sworn adversary. Ruto has, however, insisted that ceasefire will prevent further casualties, improve the availability of public services, and enable resolution of the ongoing disputes. This, he pointed out, will lead to the resumption of the final phase of the political process.
Our meeting needs to pave way for an unconditional ceasefire that facilitates unhindered humanitarian access and ensures protection of civilians, stops loss of life, destruction of property, and critical infrastructure, and enables the people of Sudan to access public services.
He made the remarks on Monday in Addis Ababa during the IGAD Quartet Head of State and Government meeting that focused on the Sudan conflicts. President Ruto, who also chairs the IGAD Quartet, termed the situation in Sudan as dire, with data indicating that over 2.9 million people have been displaced. IGAD has maintained its commitment to the meditation quartet led by Kenya in its efforts to seek peace in Sudan.
The well-being of the people of Sudan and the stability of this great nation needs to be the guiding light for both sides.
This commitment remains intact even in the face of Sudan's rejection of the proposed resolution. And despite protests from the Sudanese government, officials who are knowledgeable about the decision have stated that the resolutions, which were announced in an official IGAD communique, will continue to be in effect until they are formally revised by the heads of state and government of the 8-member bloc. The death toll from the conflict stands at more than 2,000 as the crisis exerts more pressure on neighboring countries. In Darfur, Ruto added targeted inter-ethnic attacks were steadily spiraling towards the commission of genocide. Mike Kagongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now back home, 2 managers from Brown's Cheese Company Limited in Limuru, who were arrested and detained over allegations of strip-searching fellow female employees, have been released on a cash bond of 300,000 shillings or a cash bill of 150,000 shillings. This, even as the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Affirmative Action and Gender, Aisha Jumwa, today condemned the incident, adding that her ministry was closely following the matter.
After 4 nights at the Tigoni police station, Vivian Okamakoko and Lydia Opodo, who are Quality Assurance and Human Resource Manager respectively at the Brown's Cheese Company, can breathe a sigh of relief, albeit for a while.
I'm not satisfied on a balance of probabilities that there exists any compelling reason for the suspect's respondents to continue being detained in custody and to be denied bond. There are no compelling reasons as per the affidavit shown by the investigating officer and the submissions by the prosecution. The application is therefore disallowed. Each of the suspects is admitted to a bond of 300,000 shillings with one surety of similar amount, or a cash bail of 150,000 shillings, pending the approval of the charges to be preferred and taking of plea.
It's however not uhuru yet for the 2 managers who remain suspended, as they are required to report to the Sub-County Criminal Investigations Officers twice a week, on every Thursday and Monday.
This case will be mentioned on the 24th of July this year to confirm whether the suspects would have taken plea in the charges intended to be preferred.
According to the Senior Principal Magistrate Limuru Law Courts Jared Migori, it was not clear how many days the prosecution was seeking to hold the suspects. Vivian and Lydia allegedly forced female employees at Brown's Cheese to undress for a thorough search to establish who was on their monthly periods, and single out an employee who had allegedly disposed a sanitary towel in the wrong bin. The abominable act attracted uproar from various stakeholders, with Gender CS Aisha Jumwa Mandi weighing in on the matter.
Si haki ya mtu yoyote yule kuweza kumvua nguo mtoto wa kike ama mwanamke ili kumwangalia kama kweli ako kwa hedhi. Ni kitendo ambacho kimetughadhabisha sana. Mimi hasa kama kiongozi wa kina mama, na nashukuru kwa sababu idara ya polisi ama ya usalama iliingilia kati na walifika pale mapema, na wale waliofanya kitendo kile wametiwa nguvuni, tayari kuona mkono wa sheria.
She added that her ministry was closely following up on the matter.
Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha has assured Kenyans of a new Kenya Medical Supply Authority that will enhance service delivery to Kenyans. The CS has promised her full commitment in ensuring a transparent KEMSA that will enable the government to achieve its universal health coverage program.
KEMSA has been at the center of controversies since 2020, when the country was battling with COVID-19. From the corruption scandals touching on the procurement of personal protective equipment, the authority seems to attract all manner of controversies. However, as a way to give the agency a revamp, Health CS Susan Nakhumicha, in her meeting today with KEMS officials and other suppliers in Nairobi, has announced a continued involvement of all stakeholders in the health sector with an aim of creating a transparent authority for quality service delivery.
But at times I wonder, if we have a syringe from Revital and a syringe that is important and it is 30% cheaper than the syringe from Revital, you know, we must ask ourselves this question. If we really want to do the right thing, we must ask ourselves this question.
The Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Mtava Molwa, has assured the suppliers of a timely payment procedure so as to ensure a smooth supply chain between stakeholders.
That there is a new commitment from the organization to first process their payments in good time, and we can give them letters of credit or payment plans to take to their bank so that they are able to get financing facilities to ensure that they support.
On his side, the chairperson of KEMSA, Irungu Nyakera, has urged the vendors to develop a standardized price list of their commodities to match with the market prices.
We value the collaboration and partnership of various stakeholders, such as yourselves in the healthcare sector. We understand that our success lies in our ability to work together toward a common goal. We remain committed to fostering open lines of communication and actively involving stakeholders in decision-making processes.
The suppliers and vendors who attended the meeting have expressed their faith in KEMSA, hoping for a better system that will restore its glory.
To the President, how can you ensure that KEMSA holds quarterly stakeholder engagement sessions so that we are periodically reviewing, not just waiting for a scandal to happen? How can we be engaged continuously?
Jackson Chacha, TV47.
Well, the Shakahola cult mystery continues to intensify with the discovery of 40 more graves. This even as the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Lands, Nixon Korir, says that the 800 acres of land do not belong to Pastor Paul Mackenzie. Have a look.
With the exhumation of bodies in the Shakahola cult entering the fourth phase, 40 more graves, which are suspected to contain more bodies, have been discovered. The death toll has now hit the 300+ mark.
Tuko na makaburi 40 ambayo hajafunguliwa, na kila kaburi mengine tunashuku iko na zaidi ya maiti moja katika ile kaburi. Wale viongozi wa makanisa ama dini ambao wanafikiria tutakubalia eti kwa sababu kuna haki ya kuabudu kuwe na tukio lingine kama lile la Shakahola, hao wajue hatutalegeza kamba.
At the same time, Lands and Physical Planning Principal Secretary Nixon Korir says that there is no evidence of ownership of the 800 acres land in Shakahola in Kilifi County, allegedly linked to the controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie.
I wanted you to confirm whether from the Ministry of Lands, was there any charge, any transaction, any agreement, anything that was received within the ministry to verify that?
We are not aware of any lease to Mackenzie that is registered to us, and we are not aware of any dispute. We don't have any dispute in regards to the parcels of the lands in Shakahola. Allegations that Mackenzie has 800 acres, Chair, the allegations we've had also, but we don't have any evidence of Mackenzie owning any parcel of land there.
Korir was appearing before the Danson Mungatana-led ad hoc committee that has been tasked with probing the matter. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Second Lady Dorcas Rigathi has challenged parents with children fighting alcohol addiction and substance abuse to offer them acceptance, which is a key part of their recovery journey. Speaking at a sports tournament in Kiambu County, she added that her office is making efforts to rehabilitate alcoholics in inpatient and outpatient programs. Kiambu County Deputy Commissioner Titus Masharia, who was also present at the tournament, revealed that the war against alcohol in the region has made good progress through the efforts of the county administration and the community.
One thing I'm telling everybody is that drug addiction and alcohol taking is actually a disease. Those people are sick. And you can't condemn people who are sick. What you need is to understand them and help them to be able to overcome. But when we condemn them and we do not even take care of them, some of them have gone to the level they are mentally ill. And so we need to start to know how do we deal with these mental illnesses. And we are going to be calling and going across the nation talking about it so that we don't stigmatize this thing. So that if your child is in drugs, don't be ashamed. Bring that child to where they can get help. There are places, I'm sure we are going to be talking about centers where you can bring them. We are trying to come up with one at Jamhuri Park where you can come for outpatient, and we'll be involving counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists and medics who will be able to be dealing with some of these cases.
Without our people being sober, no matter what government does, we will not be able to benefit from all the things that the government is doing. So here in Kiambu, we have worked very well, and we have reduced the consumption of illicit brews and counterfeit brews and drugs to the barest minimum, and we are working very well with the county government and all other agencies to ensure that we are sober in Kiambu County so that we can help the president transform this county and transform the entire republic the way he promised us when he was looking for this particular leadership.
Now, Kenya loses about 40 billion shillings each year due to pollution in Lake Victoria, a water body which produces more than 60% of fish in the country. This is according to the Director of Freshwater Research from the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, Christopher Aura, who says that the loss is mainly caused by environmental pollution, huge concentration of people near the lake, and increased fishing activities. Residents and organizations involved in environmental maintenance have pointed a blaming finger to industries that they allege cause huge pollution by spilling chemicals into the lake, which has led to a huge decrease of fish.
Contamination of the water bodies is a key concern for us as Kiwasco. If the water is heavily contaminated, that it poses a challenge for us when it comes to treatment. So we have to change our treatment regime. We have to probably increase the amount of chemicals we use. It's therefore important for us to be involved in what we call integrated water resource management.
Kuna factory natuumiza, hizi mafactory zimewekwa karibu ya bahari kama Coca-Cola. Unapata saa zingine wanasema wanaosha hizo matangi zao. Wakiosha hizo matangi zao, hata hizo machupa zao, unapata hizo maji wanaosha na chemical. Na hizo maji pale zinaenda hatujui zinarudi tu baharini hapo. Sasa hiyo ndio inafanya hata saa hii ukienda hapo tu unapata maji na nuka chini ya karikari hapo mwisho ya bahari hapo kichinjio hapo town. Napata hiyo maji na nuka mbaya.
But we as people who venture into the lake daily, we strongly believe that other sources are releasing wastewater, including from factories like Coca-Cola and of course Kenya breweries. We would want them to carry out tests along the areas where we suspect that this release is being done. The number of fishermen are increasing. These people.
Moving on, the government has prioritized social development financing as a key pillar under the Kenya Vision 2030 and its medium-term plans. Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, Aisha Jumwa, in the 20th anniversary celebrations of Maputo Protocol on the Rights of Women, noted that the government is very deliberate on the comprehensive development of the country and has significantly increased funding towards social development and more specifically to women programs.
Speaking in Nairobi during the 20th anniversary celebration of the Maputo Protocol on the Right of Women, Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, Aisha Jumwa, noted that key aspects of the social sector are specifically targeted for development under the bottom-up economy transformation agenda in the current administration. Jumwa also noted that globally, wide gender gaps between men and women, girls and boys still exist despite great efforts by member states toward building inclusive and prosperous economies and societies.
Tunasema kwamba tumeshare experiences, tumeshare best practices under the Maputo Protocol as a continent. So kuna vile Kenya imevuta hatua, and I can tell you for sure that wengi wanasoma from us.
The CS acknowledged the effort made by African Union Commission in persistently pursuing member states to sign and ratify the Maputo Protocol. 80% of the African member states have ratified the Maputo Protocol, symbolizing the willingness of African leaders to protect and promote women's rights on the continent.
Kupigana na dhuluma za kijinsia, uongozi katika nafasi za uongozi na masuala ya kuinua kina mama kiuchumi. Ukumbuke ya kwamba Kenya as a country iko na pesa ambazo imetenga dedicated only for women of this country.
The CS says culture has always been used as a justification to the denial of women's rights as Africa continues to face traditional challenges. According to Pan-African Women Organization President Eunice Ipinge, the initiative has made significant progress in 44 African Union member states since inception. The protocol has provided a stage to identify major solutions on challenges faced by African women.
The Women Judges Association in this country is extremely strong. Thankfully, we are converted to the he for she movement. And so in that association, we have a lot of male colleagues.
Make sure that our case through the minister for more women in participation, increased numbers of women in political leadership.
The two-day event in Nairobi is being attended by delegates from the African Union member states and others from overseas. Duncan Mtua, TV 47.
At 28 minutes past the hour, time now for a very short break. Don't go away. When we come back, we have a look at one option that couples struggling with fertility issues have. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now, surrogacy remains a very controversial topic in Kenya, lacking proper regulation. However, it is generally accepted as a viable fertility treatment. Meet Leah Wanja, a 30-year-old advocate for surrogacy, who is willing to offer her womb to a couple struggling with infertility. Our reporter Chichi Josephine has covered her inspiring story.
She is an attractive 30-year-old woman, a CEO of a local interior design firm founded 4 years ago.
My name is Lea Njaki Memia, born and raised in Nakuru. I'm 30 years old and I do interior design by profession.
Even though she promotes surrogacy, Lea doesn't fit in the often perceived form of making money as a surrogate. 2 years ago, Lea received an unexpected invitation from her cousin.
I got inspired by a family friend who didn't get a kid, and she was very desperate. She's getting to almost 40 years old and above, and she didn't get a kid. So she came to our family like a family friend because I'd just given birth and she wanted my baby.
She discloses that she has finally made up her mind to be a surrogate mother, effectively joining a growing number of Kenyan women who are renting out their wombs to carry other people's pregnancies, an issue that has taken her 2 years to think about.
I met the lady and she gave me her story. She has fertility issues and she's been struggling to get a baby. And the only solution is someone to carry the baby for her. That is what inspired me.
According to Dr. Justus Nondi, a fertility doctor in Nakuru, 2 out of 10 couples in Kenya are affected by infertility, while 3 out of 10 patients visiting health facilities in Nakuru have problems with conception.
Fertility is a big issue. In fact, it affects around 2 out of 10 couples in this country. And when they come, the reasons for not being able to conceive could be very many. We could have issues to do with the egg itself not being mature enough to come and be fertilized. We can have a situation where the uterus itself is not conducive.
He further explains the causes of infertility in women as he outlines the requirements of a surrogate mother.
Number one cause of infertility in our setup is infections. What we call pelvic infections, sexually transmitted infections, and all that. Another broad cause is what we call hormonal imbalance, where we just find the hormones of ladies not balanced enough to cause the eggs to mature well. So because of that, we end up with the ladies who are not able to have mature eggs, and therefore they don't undergo that process we are calling ovulation. The other broad cause is something called growths within the uterus, what we basically call fibroids. And fibroids can affect the chances of conceiving, the chances of having a pregnancy to term.
Usually, the commissioning parents and the surrogate mother engage a lawyer to draw up a contract based on some mutual understanding.
So although on the sides this has been happening, the courts have been interpreting that just basically as an willing parties have come and agreed on something, but it's largely unregulated.
For commercial purposes, one would have to discuss this now one-on-one with the prospective parents or prospective couple.
Once the couple has chosen a surrogate through a surrogacy agency, the surrogate is vetted to ascertain that she is mentally and physically sound, according to Nonde.
The meeting point would generally be a fertility center like ours here, where we bring in the couple. Of course, the couple will have come in and evaluated and found out that her issues are around the uterus mainly. And then we bring in surrogates also. They have to also come through a fertility center like ours here. And then we initiate a discussion from that point.
However, there is really no regulative measure for surrogacy, thus opening up the process to corruption and other irregularities, according to lawyer Dorcas Nyambura.
We've had instances where, for instance, the commissioning parent will approach a surrogate mother and they'll come to an agreement of one child, but God blesses and then the surrogate mother gets multiple children, 2, 3, and you'll get the surrogate mother retaining 2 of the children and saying, no, we agreed on one child, so you take the one child, they retain the other 2 children. And then when you go to enforce such a contract in court, largely very unregulated, very unfair for the commissioning parents.
Suba North Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo sponsored a bill that seeks to entrench surrogacy and other assisted reproductive technologies into law, a bill that Dorcas says will streamline the surrogacy process if regulated by Assisted Reproductive Technology Authority.
A number of women, and the numbers keep rising, of women who are not able to then carry children on their own. And if then we are not able to assist them to be able to get children, that means we are not realizing their right to reproductive health.
But what do advocates of the bill think about?
I think for me it's something that we need to appreciate in our diversities as we talk about families. Families can be generated from whichever aspect. There are women who do not have, whose uterus have been worn out. So how do they then have a generation to consider as their own family?
We are really in support of the bill, the surrogacy bill. So we need a law that is protecting both parties and even the party whereby if you are paying for that, so that it is clear, if I'm paying you, we agreed from the word go, it is 500,000 or 500,000, then it does not change when the baby is delivered.
According to the Children's Act, a mother is the one who gives birth to a child. The same act provides that parental responsibility belongs to both parents. However, religious leaders have argued that surrogacy is a severe violation of human dignity and contrary to the unity of marriage, as children are gifts with their own inherent dignity.
It is immoral. It is a sin. For it is contrary to the unity of marriage and to the dignity of the procreation of the human person.
Bibi na bwana wakawa ni wenye kubaliana, ikawa kwamba hawawezi kupata mimba na mmoja akashika mimba. Yani huyu mama ikachukuliwa ya mwanaume na ikawekwa kwa huyu ambaye kwamba ni bibi yake, kwa hivyo hiyo inaweza kubalika. Lakini a third party kwa Uislamu hiyo inakuwa ni haramu.
Even as Leah opts to become a surrogate, she is alive to the fact that currently the laws and regulations regarding the procedures aren't very clear, and that can be a problem for both donors and surrogates.
The bill is not clear about the naming of the kid. Once I give birth, the kid is supposed to be named. The biological mom is supposed to be me. The mom, who is supposed to be the biological mom, gets the kid through adoption. So the bill needs to be clear. For me, once I carry the kid, by the time I'm giving birth, then the parents are supposed to name the kid.
Surrogacy, which for decades have been practiced in some developed nations, has been viewed as an option for couples who cannot naturally have babies and is gradually gaining currency in Kenya as the procedure is undertaken to help women who cannot conceive either due to absence of a uterus or other complications.
I have about 5 women who would actually love to be surrogates. In other centers, especially for our partners we work with in Nairobi, we realize that this happens a lot. And it's something that a number of Kenyans are beginning to embrace at the moment.
Nobody chooses not to have children. I'm sure for women who desire to have children, it would be sad if we are making money out of such a situation.
And I'll still do it again for whoever I'll have to do it for, as long as I'm willing to do it up until the level where I'm like, now I want, because I also want a family at some point. I just want to do it within some years.
Surrogacy is relatively new in Kenya, according to fertility doctors. However, the idea is controversial, but the question remains, how practical is the idea of surrogacy? Reporting for TV47 from Nakuru County, my name is Chichi Josephine.
Well, tomorrow, the 11th of July 2023, is the World Population Day. Such a timely piece by our very own Chichi Josephine. Remember, you can still catch it on our official YouTube page, that is at TV47 Kenya. Time now for the latest from the world of business. Now, the mitumba industry wants to be formally acknowledged by the government in the textile industry to ensure an immediate stop to protectionism against the import of second-hand clothing. The Mitumba Consortium of Kenya Chair, Terasaya Wairimo, says the business, which despite facing unnecessary regulatory and legislative barriers, contributes to the ailing Kenyan economy, and policymakers must recognize that the expansion of domestic textile production and the growth of the second-hand clothing industry are not mutually exclusive. Have a look.
The second-hand clothing industry supports 3.4 million jobs and contributes about $419 billion in income to the region annually. In Kenya, the sector contributes at least 1 billion shillings per month in revenue. This is further bolstered by a majority of Kenyans who boost the mitumba trade, with about 91% of Kenyans buying the second-hand clothes.
By supporting the second-hand clothing industry, we stimulate our own textile production, using recyclable materials and fostering innovation. This will only create a thriving domestic textile industry, but also contribute to job creation and economic growth.
The consortium says while boosting the domestic textile industry is important, restricting second-hand clothes traders does not guarantee its success. Furthermore, the Mitumba Consortium Association of Kenya says the trade encourages a circular production model which promotes sustainability and the green agenda.
Reducing carbon emissions and minimizing waste. By embracing the second-hand clothing industry, we are taking a concrete step towards building an environmentally conscious and responsible society.
In a report launched by the consortium, they advocate for expanding sorting facilities and collaboration with sector players before passing any further legislations.
We must invest in improving facilities for collecting and reusing clothing by establishing effective systems for recycling and reusing textiles. We can minimize waste and create a more sustainable.
Moving on, Kenya is looking cross-border tariffs that are hampering intercontinental trade to tap into the $3 trillion available African market. The Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of East African Community and Asals, Rebecca Miano, says streamlining regulations across all borders would ensure raw materials are exchanged between countries and processed at a much cheaper rate than the current exporting frenzy to other continents.
With an almost 1.3 billion people market, Africa is the second largest continent by population, making up for almost 20% of the world's population. This also classifies it as one of the fastest growing markets in the world. At the 14th Africa Union High-Level Private Sector Forum, businesses and traders were encouraged to widen their nets to the larger Africa region for trade.
With emphasis on deepening regional and continental trade and investment towards the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
As countries continue to work on tariffs that will ensure the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement finally comes to fruition.
Inter-partner state trade policies, while betokening both entities with the welcome congruence of purpose and prospect.
She argues that utilization of local raw materials from various states will boost production in the continent, benefiting individual traders and cottage industries.
One of the key drivers in the realization of the AFCFTA